What's going on, guys? This is No Filter, a Nintendo podcast, and this is my review for Garage for the Nintendo Switch. Garage is a methodical zombie horror survival twin-stick shooter game. I know that sounds like a lot, but I think after you see some of this gameplay here, you'll see what I mean. It is published by TinyBuild, the creators of Cluster Truck and Hello Neighbor, and the upcoming Punch Club for the Nintendo Switch. You follow a drug addict and dealer named Butch who wakes up in a trunk of a car in a burning underground parking garage. You discover that an outbreak has occurred and zombies are attacking everybody, basically. You get in contact with a voice on a phone named Anaconda who directs you to release them from a prison and possibly stop this virus and the zombie outbreak. The story isn't anything too great, but it does pique a bit of your interest and pushes the game forward well enough. The visuals are a gorgeous pixel art style with detailed and clean animations. They look great running on the Switch. However, I can see some boredom with the themes. We've seen them a lot over the last decade or so, and the majority of the game is a lot of gray, brown, and black, but of course a lot of red as well. Although they do have some pretty interesting areas, including an underground weed farm. The sound also deserves a great mention here. The soundtrack is fantastic for this game. It has some heart-pumping tracks and some sinister, quiet tracks to emphasize the horror aspect in the game. Check out my Twitter, actually, to see one of these awesome instances that work really well with the sound of a shotgun going off in tandem with the soundtrack. It's really, really something special. Again, that's Twitter at Wizrad. Now, the gameplay, I really enjoyed. It is far more methodical of a twin-stick shooter with somewhat limited ammo and slower reload times. So this keeps the tension up and you on edge constantly. It works really well, so don't go in guns a-blazing or anything like that. One of the greatest design decisions in the game is actually the field of view aspect. So where you will only see enemies on the screen that your character sees. So basically, if you're facing a wall and you can't see around the corner, those enemies will not be showing on your screen. Because this is a top-down twin-stick shooter, more often than not, usually you can just hide behind a wall and then pick off the people whenever you want to go out there and just do short bursts of your weapon, right? Whereas again, no, here, if you're not seeing the enemies, they're not showing up on your screen, which is really awesome for a game like this with the survival and the horror aspect. It creates a lot of jump scares and a lot of jumps and enemies popping out of corners and keep you on edge again. It's really great for that. It adds even more strategy and tension to the game, and I love it. You carry an axe, you get a pistol, machine gun, shotgun, all the typical suspects for a game like this. The main problem with the gameplay, though, here is that it does have some somewhat odd controls, for the shooting aspect at least. The shooting just never seems to work quite right. You will try aiming at one zombie, for example, and for some reason you will miss them. Even though it's just plain as day, you think that you're going to hit them, but for some reason it just doesn't feel right. Partly because you are moving, but then aiming with the right stick and the bullets are pixel perfect. Whereas a lot of other games you'll see that the bullets are as big as the person that's shooting them kind of thing. Whereas this, it's very much realistic in that aspect. Although, again, for me, I do appreciate having a challenge in a game and something different that I haven't really experienced before. And these controls are a little bit different than what I'm normally experiencing in twin-stick shooters. One other quick thing I did want to bring up about the gameplay, though, which is just really nagging me about the game. The hitboxes when you're kicking. So basically you have one of your attacks as a kick. So you'll have a gun in your hand, say you're reloading, and there's a zombie coming up near you. You kick them to push them away from you so they aren't just mauling you. Basically this kick is, the hitbox just isn't right. It just doesn't feel right. I could never get used to it, and it's even worse when you're facing these little annoying friggin' rats that come at you from all different angles, and you just can't hit them because they're smaller. It seems like the hitbox is pixel perfect, and it just doesn't feel right. Another one of my major problems with the game is that after, I'd say, about the 2 to 3 hour mark, the game seems to drop in quality a little bit, and it sort of seems to rush to its completion. The levels get a bit more bland and overused. They're kind of doing the same thing multiple times, and even with some cool bosses, it just doesn't really jump out at you as anything special. The enemy variety didn't really jump as much as I thought it would after, the first 8 chapters or so. And to be fair, one of the most abhorrent things that what really made me want to hit home this point here is the ridiculous Chapter 10. I don't want to spoil that chapter, but basically the game leads up to a really cool scene that you are looking forward to doing. Then it just goes to a blank screen, then a notice from the developers pops up, basically telling the story of some crazy chase scene and all this amazing stuff that you would have loved to do, and then they say they lost the code or whatever for this level and you just have to skip ahead. Like, it's like they ran out of time or money with the game and just didn't want to put the effort into making this cool scene that they're trying to describe, and then all of a sudden you just skip this chapter, basically. That chapter took all of like 5 minutes, whereas every other chapter took like 20 or 30. But yeah, I just didn't appreciate that at all. And after that, apart from a few cool scenes, the game seemed to just kind of putter to a finish. It was still a fun time, and it just wasn't pushing the game anymore, and it seemed like it was just kind of phoning it in at the end. It reminded me a lot of recent Sonic games, actually, where it just seems to really hit off a good start and then it just kind of putters to the finish line. Overall, though, I did really enjoy this game. I was happy that I played through it, though I haven't played too many other twin-stick shooter games recently, like Hotline Miami or anything like that. So this is coming from someone, just keep that in mind about my review, it's coming from someone who isn't comparing it to other recent twin-stick shooter games, but I would still definitely suggest to play. I honestly had a blast playing it, and whether you buy it new right now or you wait for a sale, it's definitely a good game. So it just has those few disappointments about the awkward aiming and the rushed or lazy portions of it towards the end. So there's my review for Garage from TinyBuild. I want to thank TinyBuild for sending their code over for review. I hope you guys appreciated this, and let me know if you guys want to pick up the game, because again, honestly, if you like this kind of aesthetic, actually one thing I wanted to bring up, this did remind me a lot of Zombie U in some ways, and I loved Zombie U on the Wii U. It was a fantastic game. So this definitely caught some of that itch for me there. So if you guys enjoyed Zombie U as well, I'd say this is a game you should definitely give it a go.